The name Jeep is synonymous with American pride and hardcore off-roading. In 2008 though, the company hit the buffers during the world financial crisis until an Italian firm stepped in, Fiat. In 2014 they saved the company and have now started to build their own Jeeps. But can a company that builds the Fiat 500 city car really build a Jeep? Well, they think so, and this is the Renegade. So let's find out. So this Renegade comes with a 1.6 litre multi-jet diesel engine, develops 118 brake horsepower, but more importantly 236 feet-pound of torque and 320 newton meters. It comes with a 6-speed manual gearbox and is in 2-wheel drive, which is front-wheel drive on this version rather than the optional 4-wheel drive. But for me, in a Jeep, that's a little bit like buying a pair of Wellington boots and only wearing them around the house rather than outside where they're meant to be. This is a Jeep, this is meant to go off-road, it's meant to be rugged, and by giving it just 2-wheel drive is a little bit of an odd decision. The benefits are 115 grams per kilometre of CO2, so if you're buying it as a company car, you're going to get a much lower tax banding. So that 118 brake horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque get this thing from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 10.2 seconds, which isn't bad, but it feels a lot quicker than that. Peak torque arrives at 1,750 RPM, and it all arrives at once. Before then, there's very little going on. Once you hit that trigger mark, it really propels you forward. There's a massive thud of torque through the front wheels, and this thing starts to shift. It will then charge to about 4,000 RPM, which is where the maximum horsepower arrives before it starts to dwindle out. Where that torque really comes into its own is pulling away from slower areas in higher gears. So as you pull away from a 30-40 mile an hour zone, there's not much need to shift gears. The 6-speed gearbox feels particularly well made, feels really solid. There's a nice throw to it, and the clutch is quite light, so the process of changing gears made much easier. Driving this is a little bit of a mixed bag. Comfort-wise is pretty good. This thing really soaks up large lumps and bumps. Where it's not quite as good is on smaller imperfections on the road, which can make it feel a little bit fidgety at times, and it never quite settles. But overall, it's very comfortable. That means it's quite softly sprung, which you feel through the corners. There's quite a lot of roll, and you certainly wouldn't want to push on too hard in this. Steering wise is again a bit of a mixed bag. Generally, and most of the time, there's a nice feel to the steering. At low speeds it's light and handy around town, and then shores up when you're on a motorway or going a little bit faster. However, put it through a tough series of bends and the consistency changes, so you'll find your steering angle, and then halfway through that corner, as the weight and the whole body of the car is shifting, and not particularly liking that dynamic side, you feel a change to the steering resistance, and that's a little bit disconcerting at times. Refinement for me really excels in the Renegade. It's pretty quiet. The diesel, for a diesel, is really quite peaceful, and doesn't intrude into the interior ambience too much. Road noise is not too bad, and wind noise only really becomes noticeable at motorway speeds, so you can sit back and eat up some decent miles in this. What the Renegade gives you is an old school feel of being in a 4x4. Nowadays they're set much lower, they feel much more like you're in a hatchback or an estate of a normal car. This feels much more upright. You've got quite a steep windscreen, you feel quite high up. The seating's massively adjustable, so you can actually sit very low, to the point of you almost can't see above the dashboard. But it's nice to have that flexibility. Even sitting high up, I've got acres of headroom, I've got loads of shoulder room around me, and for a car that on the road is the same size as a Volkswagen Golf in length and 6mm wider, it feels huge in here. It feels like a proper full-size SUV 4x4, but won't take up that much space in a parking spot. Having said that, the only disappointment in here is lack of storage. I've got a very small bin in the door, there's a small tray in front of the gear lever, and under this central armrest there's a small storage box. So this limited edition comes packed with stuff. I've got full leather seats throughout. I've got a leather steering wheel and climate control, which is adjustable for passenger and driver. In front of me is a 7-inch TFT information screen, which is nicely detailed and gives me my trip computer, fuel range, etc. In the middle of the dash is a 6.5-inch colour touchscreen infotainment system, which gives Bluetooth, USB connectivity and sat-nav. And to be fair, feels a little bit fussy and slightly dated. Graphics aren't the best, but it's quite simple to use. The dials here are actually nicely done, and again it feels like a big 4x4. They're tough, big rotary dials with a rubber edge to them, so if you're wearing some gloves you can still control everything. There are a few smaller, fussier dials, and it takes a little bit of time to remember where everything is. What the Renegade does do is add a little bit of class, so a lot of the controls are lined with chrome, as is a lot of the exterior, so you get that traditional 7-bar grille which screams Jeep, chrome roof rails and some other nice touches. In the back again there's loads of room, and reasonably tall adults will be able to get comfortable. There's plenty of headroom, there's lots of leg room and decent knee room, whilst the seats offer good comfort. The boot's not the biggest, but it's enough to take a couple of suitcases and easily swallow your weekly shop. There's a little bit of a lip to get over because this one hasn't got the adjustable floor, but that does mean it's quite deep, so you can get a bit more in there. So can Fiat build a Jeep? Yes they can, and they've been really clever about it. They've made this thing feel like an old school proper 4x4. Inside it's roomy and feels robust, like it could go anywhere. On the outside it's no bigger than a Golf, so it will go around town and fit in parking spaces without a problem. Available with 2 or 4-wheel drive, choice of engines and 4 trim levels. There's a Jeep out there for you. This one costs £24,500, which for me, with only the 2-wheel drive, is a little bit too expensive, but the range starts from £17,500, so pick carefully. This thing's full of character and could really suit you. Thanks for watching Driver's Seat today. If you've liked what you've seen, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the website for any of the latest news and reviews.